Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Full Moon Sangha. My name is Peter Boland. I appreciate you so much, especially you folks here in the room, and hello to everybody at home live streaming. You know, I always like to start with this bowl, which is actually called a full moon bowl. I haven't told this story in a while, but I got this from a wonderful proprietor named Casey Dugan. What a great name. Sounds like a baseball player from the 20s. Casey Dugan. And he runs a shop down in Old Town called Gomsam. I think that's what it is. And it's full of this. It's full of Tibetan and Nepalese and Indian and Pakistani objects that have to do with Hinduism and Buddhism and just the most beautiful things. And I was in there with Lori one day after eating at Old Town Mexican Cafe, and it was on my birthday a few years ago. And I started ringing these bowls. The whole back wall is these bowls, and great big ones and little tiny ones. And this one really spoke to me. And he said, "Oh, this is a full moon bowl." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "This is from Nepal, from a family that traces its lineage all the way back to the Buddha 2,500 years ago." Now, I don't know if there's paperwork to verify that, but I love that story. And the monks who make this particular bowl, they only work on it on the night of the full moon. So they work on it feverishly the night of the full moon. Then they have to wait a whole month till the full moon is back, and then they work on it some more. And it's made from 11 different metallic components, some of them found in meteorites up in the foothills of the Himalayas. I mean, the story just went on and on. My jaw was hanging down. It's probably made in the back room of the shop, but anyway, I bought it, and I'm so thrilled. And it has the most amazing 3-part tone. It's hard to hear on this little mic. It's a G, if any musicians in the room, which is my favorite note anyway. So all kinds of things aligned, and I brought it home with me. And that was right after I decided to call this the Full Moon Sangha. So I had to have it, and I always start with it every night when we gather here. So we are here for an hour of spiritual inquiry, but mostly guided meditation and the activity of meditation. So this is unlike any of the other events that I have where I'm normally talking and showing PowerPoints and exploring big ideas and writers and philosophies and all that. Here, we're going to do it on a much simpler scale and participate in the activity of meditation. And so the hour is divided up into 3 basic components. Make some opening remarks here in a moment. I brought my phone with me tonight because I want to actually refer to a couple of notes, and there's a few quotes from Meister Eckhart, who I've been reading a lot of lately, that I want to make a few comments about and build something for us to kind of think about as we go into the second part of the meditation hour, which is me sitting down in that chair and helping all of us relax by leading you through a body scan. Is a quick way to say it. We'll just move through the different muscle groups and move into a deeper, more relaxed state. There's a lot of out there in the world. On the personal level, on the political level, on the global level, on the cosmic level. And it's really tough to go from 60 to 0 in 1 second and go into the stillness that makes meditation efficacious. So I find that this period of relaxing each group of muscles and letting everything slow down, I find that very, very helpful. And it's actually kind of reminiscent of what the process of Ashtanga yoga is, of doing a little breath work, a little body work, receding from the sensory world, and then going into the seated meditation part. And after that, I'll invite you all to join me in a guided meditation process, which will include 5, usually 10 minutes of silence, total silence, and that'll happen a little bit later in the hour. And then we come out of that, and we have a few concluding remarks, and then we're all free to wander out of here at about 7:30. So that's what the hour roughly looks like. I'm thrilled to be back in this space with you. Thanks for coming in again. This is the second one. We met the first Monday of last month, and we have scheduled the rest of the year, the first Monday of every month going forth from here, so mark your calendars. Thank you so much for parting with your treasure in the jar. We appreciate your contributions. It helps us keep the air conditioning on and all of the other things that are required, really, to have gatherings like this. So thank you for your support. You know, I was thinking about meditation a lot this last week, and that always happens as a full moon Sangha is coming. And I got to thinking about what's at the center of it. And for those of you who've been meditating with me or on your own for many years, you know, we always work in our meditation to get quiet, to slow down, and to shift into the witness of our thoughts instead of inhabiting our thoughts. And that shift of witnessing our thoughts is really key. And if we're lucky, and it doesn't happen every time you meditate. Sometimes you sit down and meditate, and the gardener shows up next door with the leaf blower, or the chainsaw crew, or your dog won't stop barking because you ordered so much stuff on Amazon, there's like a truck every 11 minutes. And you're like, well, I guess meditation's not going to really work today. And then other times, it's just the whole cosmos cooperates with you, and you, for some reason, can find that restful stream, and you flow into that, and all of a sudden you do a decent job of witnessing your own thoughts, and you begin to feel them receding. And then the question becomes, who is meditating? What is that stillness that I am experiencing, not as an ideological concept, not as a philosophical theory, but as a lived, inhabited embodiment? And of course, that's the last vestiges of your mind, trying to name the nameless. And so what I got to thinking about this week was how they handle it in Buddhism. And in Buddhism, their word for ultimate reality is shunyata. Shunyata, Shunyata. The word shunya in Sanskrit means zero or nothing. So shunyata means nothingness. Sometimes it's translated as the void. And a lot of new students to Buddhism are rightly puzzled that the Buddhist answer to the question, what is ultimate reality, is not God or Brahman, it's emptiness. And that either gets you very excited because you're weird like me, or it's rather off-putting and you're like, okay, next, slide right. Let's study something else. And I have this feeling that, and I'm just editorializing here, I have this feeling that the Buddhist philosophers who came up with that were doing the best they could to name something that is utterly without form, beyond all concepts, and in a real meaningful sense, empty of content. And so as you look at reality, it obviously isn't empty. I mean, I'm here, you're here, there's billions of things all over the place. So don't confuse shunyata for nothingness or non-being. Clearly there's somethingness here and lots of being. But to describe it as shunyata, to describe it as empty, means to drill down a little deeper, it means empty of fixed form, empty of rigid, separate things that aren't flowing into each other. That reality is instead a deeply interconnected field of energy, matter, and consciousness. And this starts to sound a little bit like quantum physics and all of those kinds of ideologies. So the idea of shunyata is an interesting one, but I have a feeling that those ancient Buddhists who came up with this is what frustrated philosophers call ultimate reality. They just got sick and tired of trying to describe it, so they said, it's nothing. It's nothingness. It's empty, which to me is a suggestion. It's the suggestion to not name it, to not make it something, to not make it this. Because once you make it this, it's not that. And then you've distorted it. And the more you do that, the further away you get from it. So if you want to realize it, you think and talk about it as little as possible. I know that sounds kind of annoying, but one is still at the same time in that embodied field of participation with it. So this is a rich idea in the Hindu and the Buddhist, and also I would say the Taoist tradition as well. In the Tao Te Ching, that line we always cite, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. So right away you get this wonderful affirmation, that same theme, that the Tao is the Taoist word for ultimate reality. And we need to call it something and even describe it a little bit, but the Tao you're talking about is not the real Tao. So that's how they do it. And I'm wondering with you tonight, this is just an inquiry, I'm not telling you anything. I'm wondering if that field of stillness that we experience on our best meditation days is that field that these ancient seers and sages called shunyata. And for anybody in the Christian tradition here in the room tonight, especially in the Trinitarian traditions, we might bring in the Holy Spirit here as that aspect of the Trinitarian God in the Judeo-Christian, or I should say in the Christian tradition, that is the formless part of God. That aspect of God that is already inside everything and shows up as everything. Certainly that's how Thomas Merton, Richard Rohr, and other Roman Catholic priests and theologians would describe it, especially the ones like I just mentioned, Merton and Rohr, who are all up in this Buddhist stuff and are seeing these connections very, very explicitly. So that's a possibility that I wanted to just think through with you for a few minutes tonight before we begin our meditation experience, just as a way of posing that question. So tonight, as we go into that deepening experience, you might wonder if emptiness or nothingness is, if you're going to use any handle at all, any concept at all, not a bad one. Not a bad one. And why when the Buddha sat down to give that famous flower sermon that Zen Buddhists always retell, he didn't say anything. He simply held up a flower and was silent. So I'm holding my phone in my hand for two reasons, and one is I wanted to remind you to please silence your device if you have yours, and make sure mine is quiet. And if you don't know how to do that, just power down. But I have three brief quotes from Meister Eckhart I want to share with you, and then I'll sit down and we'll get started. Now, Meister Eckhart, some of you know who that is. He's a 14th century German priest. And best known, I guess, the label we would use today is Christian mystic. So he was just a parish priest in Germany. And he published a lot of sermons in German, which was unusual because in those days, in the 15th century, all Catholic practice was in Latin. But he wrote his sermons in the local language, already prefiguring what Martin Luther would do 200 years later when he translated the Bible into German, so German people could actually read it, and that was a big part of the Protestant Reformation. But he's on the Catholic side here, Meister Eckhart. And any Eckhart Tolle fans in the room, if you've studied him at all, the great contemporary teacher, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and A New Earth, and Stillness Speaks, and he's still out there doing wonderful teaching. His name, Eckhart Tolle, is a nom de plume based on Meister Eckhart. So Eckhart Tolle's own deep immersion into mostly Buddhism is deeply informed by the Christian mysticism of Meister Eckhart. Meister Eckhart died right before the Inquisition arrested him for heresy, and he was going to probably be executed for the kind of ideas that he was teaching. So I want to share with you 3 passages from Meister Eckhart. See if you can discern any connection here between this explicitly Christian teacher and the Buddhist idea of shunyata that we were just thinking through. Because that's where my mind always goes, how to put these things together. Because there are people maybe here in the room, maybe on the live stream, for whom the idea of God leaves them cold. Especially the Catholic tradition. They're like, I can't get away from that fast enough. I just came here for Buddhist meditation. And then there may be people in the room or on the live stream who have, deep roots and deep reverence for their own Christian or Catholic practice, but who are exploring Eastern spirituality and want to see if there's a connection. So there's as there should be, a range of folks here with us. Let's see how Meister Eckhart's words hit all of you. He says, don't try to find God. Simplify your scattered life and become one in yourself. Then God will find you. The rest will follow. That sounds like what we're about to do. To simplify our lives by sitting, by leaving behind the busyness of the day, by leaving behind all of our labels and jobs and identities and the constant discernment and judgment and reactivity that our thought stream is dragging us through. We're trying to let go all of that. Maybe that's what he means when he says, simplify your scattered life. The second saying from Meister Eckhart I want to share with you goes like this. At the heart of things is an eternal present moment, which is in each and everything that is, and in me and in you. And when we let ourselves come into an awareness of this now, we come to know ourselves as a becoming new without renewal. And this is the truth beyond all our worries and all our needs and all our hopes, that one eternal present moment. That sounds like a blurb on the dust jacket of The Power of Now by Meister Eckhart. That at the heart of things is this eternal present moment. Is that what we touch into when we work as we're about to do to get silent and to go into that infinite boundlessness that is our own essential nature? What Meister Eckhart here is calling this now, capital N, now. Finally, this third bit from Meister Eckhart. Make a start with yourself by abandoning yourself. For if you do not begin by taking leave of who you are, everything you do or think you are and all you seek will be an obstacle for you. And you will not, and you will be like one who has lost her way, and in wandering only becomes further lost. So if you wish to find your way, lose yourself. I couldn't find a more Zen quote if I tried, about the unreality of the surface identity, letting go of all the labels that I use for myself and allowing that authentic, essential being to well up and reveal itself as my essential nature. So these ideas to me seem to get to the heart of what meditation is. It's simple. It's the practice of stillness. It's about trying to declutter and get everything out of the way So that's something that is normally, the other 23 hours of the day, deeply suppressed under layers of busyness, can finally be heard from behind the din where it is customarily hidden. So let's begin. We'll go through a body scan for a few minutes, and then we'll get into the meditation piece. And then a little bit after that, we'll go into a 10-minute time of silence. So right now, let's just get our posture and our body kind of positioned in the best way. I'm going to make some suggestions about pose and about breathing. These are just suggestions, not commands. So go ahead and feel free to adapt them to your own body, your own needs. And do the best you can, but there's no compulsion here. These are just invitations. So for example, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. For many of us, this is a powerful signal to the mind that we're going to withdraw a little bit from the outer world of sensory perception and go within. So I invite you to close your eyes. If you're uncomfortable doing that, or you only want to do it for periods of time, that's fine. So I invite you to close your eyes, and if your legs are crossed, go ahead and uncross them and put both feet flat on the floor. And think of it this way. I make your feet and your knees and your hips and your shoulders kind of like two parallel lines so that the body is somewhat aligned. We're going for an active pose here. This is not the way I would slouch in the recliner and watch a movie on TCM. This is different. So we're sitting in a kind of active pose. Scoot your butt all the way back in the chair so that your back is fully supported by the backrest. And just let your hands fall in your lap in any old way. We don't need a specific hand pose, but if you'd like to do that, you certainly may. Now I invite you to take a deep breath in and exhale. And again, a deep breath in and out. 1/3 inhalation deep into the belly this time. And exhale. And allow your breathing to reach its normal rhythm. And one last posture adjustment. I invite you to lift the very top of your head, the crown of your head, the top of your skull. Lift it slightly toward the ceiling. Nothing dramatic, no straining or stretching, but just a slight lift of the top of your head so that the head rises a little bit. And at the same time, allow both of your shoulders to drop as low as they'll go. So shoulders relaxed, the top of the head slightly lifted. We want to elongate the spine. Again, nothing too strenuous here. We just want to strike a pose that is relaxed but alert. And this pose, come back to it from time to time and check. See that you're not leaning forward, leaning to the side. Keep that head slightly lifted as we go through the meditation. Check in with your body once in a while. This pose helps you not fall asleep. Because honestly, we're all so exhausted that when you sit still and close your eyes, sometimes you just fall asleep. And we don't want to fall asleep just now. So this pose will help us stay awake. Now let's move into a time of deepening relaxation. And let's bring our attention to the muscles around our eyes. I invite you to bring your attention to the muscles around your eyes, your eyelids, the top of your face. Simply notice how that area of your face feels. And as we're breathing, simply begin to release any tension or tiredness that you feel in the area around your eyes. Feel it draining away like water into sand, leaving the area of your eyes relaxed, softened, and peaceful. Now I invite you to move your attention into the area around your mouth, the powerful muscles of your jaw, lips, tongue, all of that chewing today and talking and laughing and smiling. And we see you smiling behind those masks. As we did with the eyes, simply notice how these muscles feel. Pay attention. And then give them permission to rest and to let all of that tiredness and tension drain out of these muscles around your mouth. Let them drain away like water into sand. And now we notice our entire face has changed rather dramatically from the way it was before. In a subtle yet palpable way, it's softened, it's peaceful, it's relaxed, it's resting. Now I invite you to move your attention into the powerful muscles of your neck and shoulders, and we'll repeat this process. Notice the neck and the shoulders, how powerful they are, how much work they do. Any aches or tensions, notice that. And again, simply release. Simply throw the lever and let all of the tiredness and tension drain out of your neck and shoulders. Let it drain away like water into sand. And now I invite you to move your attention from your shoulders down the biceps of the arms, across the elbows, through the forearms, and bring your mind's eye to your hands as they rest there still in your lap. Bring your attention now to the area of your hands, the palm of your hands, the fingers. Notice how your hands feel. Be present with them, these miraculous appendages that have served us thanklessly all these years. Bring your mind's eye into the center of the palm of your hands. How does it feel there? Do you feel a little warmth? Do you feel an alertness and aliveness? Is there a subtle thrum, a subtle hum of vibration, too soft to viscerally feel, but detectable nonetheless as an energy? Maybe it just feels like warmth. And do you notice how that field of energy, when you spend time in its presence, you begin to experience it beyond the tissue of the hands, as if there were a glow around your hands, like a glow of light around a light bulb. And these are wonderful, useful, visceral, empirical insights into why human touch is so powerful, why holding hands is so powerful, why laying your fingers on the forehead of a loved one when they are having pain is so powerful. And it's unimpeachable evidence that consciousness is not simply housed in the brain. But if we think about it more expansively, consciousness might be the name of this energy field that animates all 100 trillion of our cells and all of the systems, chemical, electrical, and mysterious, that weave these cells into a whole. And now I invite you to move your attention into the area of your heart, in the center of your chest, the most powerful electrical field in the body. An electrical field so powerful that there is a 12-foot circumference circle of detectable electromagnetic radiation around our heart. And when we stand close to one another, our electrical chemical fields are interacting in ways we don't understand. Our brain cells, our neurons are mirroring each other's neurons as they are right now. And we become to appreciate ourselves as a psychophysical phenomenon that is deeply mysterious, and so much is known and so much is unknown. We simply say thank you for our lives. And we allow our attention now to move deeper through our digestive tract, through our legs, across our knees, through our calves, and out through the bottoms of the soles of our feet. Let's let all the rest of the tension of today go. All of the to-do lists, the problems, the fears, the healthcare challenges, the grief, the anger. Let's release it all for a while. We can get it all back later, and we will. But for now, let's throw the lever and let it all drain away, out through the bottoms of the soles of our feet. Feel it leaving your body and entering the floor, passing through the floor, and into our Mother Earth below the floor, into this great San Diego River Valley, where it will join the river and travel out to the sea. Notice how we have shifted, at least to some degree, into a deeper, clearer, cleaner, simpler state of relaxation. So now we are ready to begin meditating. So now I invite you to bring your attention to the mind. Let's focus on our thoughts for a little while, and we'll move into the silence in maybe 5 minutes or so. So I invite you now to bring your attention to your own thoughts. As you've been listening to the sound of my voice, it's given your mind something to do. But in a few minutes, when I stop talking and we move into the silence, you will notice your own mind becoming more active. Your thought stream will begin to flow more rapidly, more voluminously. So let's prepare ourselves for that with a few simple suggestions. Right now, let's practice witnessing our thoughts. And by thoughts, I mean some random idea about you wanting to cook a brisket tomorrow and you should have bought it already so you could start it in the morning. Or you left a load of clothes in the dryer, or you forgot to feed the dog, or there's an ache in your knee, or a grief rises up about a loss that you've experienced. It could be anything. It could be an emotion, a memory, a future plan, a physical reaction. It could be a sound in the room. Whatever it is, let's call them all thoughts. And let's call their flow the thought stream. Now, let's practice right now disengaging from the thought stream. Instead of inhabiting our thoughts, let's move a little ways away from them, look back at them, and witness them with disinterest. Oh, here comes a memory. Oh, here comes a physical sensation. Here comes an old embarrassment. Here comes a deep longing. Witness all of those thoughts with the same disinterest that you would watch a cloud blowing slowly across the sky. When a cloud appears on the horizon, you don't have an opinion about it. You don't dislike it or like it. You don't try to stop it from moving, nor when it passes you by, you don't cling to it and try to keep it. You simply witness it. And you know that it is not you, but that you are the witness of that cloud. Begin to practice that same stance with your thoughts. Move into what Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita calls the inner witness. And in a minute or two, as we prepare to move into the time of silence, keep reminding yourself to shift into the witness. But be careful, because your ego and your mind will not cooperate. Your thoughts have hooks, and they will hook you back into the thought stream. And when that happens, and it will, simply smile, focus on your breath, and move back into the witness. Make that shift as many times as you need to. And when we practice being the inner witness, eventually our thoughts soften, they grow quieter, and they recede into the distance. And then we are in that silent space, that shunyata, that brahmanatman, that kingdom of heaven, that nirvana, that namelessness, that I know not what, that Holy Spirit. And yet we won't call it any of those things. We will simply be what we essentially are, and keep returning to our breath, and keep returning to the inner witness as we move now into a time of silence. invite you now to open your eyes and come back into the room and go ahead and move around and stretch however you like. I guess the sun went down while we were working there. You know, speaking of sundown, the holiest days of Judaism just began. Rosh Hashanah is tonight, here in this time zone, at sundown. And for the next 10 days in the great ancient religion of Judaism, there is a period of rich truth-telling, atonement, gathering, celebration, reverence, healing, culminating in 10 days on Yom Kippur. This is the new year beginning. And in preparation for that, in Judaism, there is a lot of letting go. And of course, there's millions of different ways to be Jewish, and I'm not putting everybody in a box here, but in some Jewish families and communities, there's a great earnest sense of kind of clearing the books, getting rid of all that stuff that's sort of hanging over us, picking up the phone and clearing the air with that friend that you didn't leave things very good with, or maybe forgiving a debt or paying a debt. Atonement. Getting to that place where you can be forgiven and you can forgive yourself and you can forgive everyone else, so that we all have a chance in the new year to start again. This is the rebirth of the community and of the individual. And that, I'm not Jewish, but I know a good idea when I see one. And that seems like a really great ritual period and a really great idea. And it reminds me of what we just did. Because in meditation, there is also this very real sense, isn't there, of letting go of the things that just don't matter. The things that I'm exhausted from carrying. Putting them down. Letting them go. And realizing that I'm not defined by my mistakes, and even less so, I'm not defined by my accomplishments. That there is a boundless, infinite space where all consciousness meets. That is who we are. That is what we are. In that way, we're all connected. We're all one. We're all the same. There we are, perennially renewed, as the Meister Eckhart passage indicated tonight. So there are so many rich themes in Judaism, but one of the ones that I keep thinking about the most is the theme of freedom. The theme of Exodus, journey from bondage to freedom. That Moses literally led the Israelites on. But in a much more intimate sense for all of us, all of our journeys from ignorance to wisdom, from fear to love, from self-loathing to love. That's a journey from bondage to freedom, from addiction to sobriety. And it's not that everything in the world can be fixed. There's some relationships that we can't repair. We just lovingly let them go and wish everybody well and go on our way. So this isn't a fix everything philosophy. This is about, David said it best in the 23rd Psalm, the Lord prepares for me a table in the presence of my enemies. That's an incredible line. Everybody knows the beginning about walking through the valley of the shadow of death. Not that many people talk about the end, where he says, not the still waters and the green pastures, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. But that part at the end grabs me, that the Lord prepares for me a table in the presence of my enemies. Think about what that means. how are we ever going to get this country back together? I don't know. That's not our job tonight, thank God. But to be in the presence of conflict and not feeling like I have to fix it or I'm a failure. And spirit or holiness or God by all the names, and we're talking about Judaism, so we'll just call it God, is the source of that reparative power that comes up from within all of us. And so that, to me, is a nice ecumenical kind of meeting place between all the different belief systems and practices and traditions. That what we just experienced tonight, and it wasn't easy, was it? I didn't even want to ask, how many times did you get pulled back into the thought stream? Too many to count for me. And I was talking with someone before we began tonight that she was sharing, and I was nodding my head that she's kind of fallen out of her meditation routine this last, year or so. This last year pretty much wrecked everything. It would have been a perfect time to really kick up my meditation routine since I was stuck at home. But for some reason, everything went sideways. Everything felt off. And it was tough. I found other practices, other things. I do plenty of stuff. But the meditation itself, I let it rest for a while this last year. And that's why I was so eager to get back into this full moon Sangha and to gather with a few of us here in a room and to share our time with folks through the live stream. And all the folks who are going to watch this video on YouTube later, all of us contributed to an unfolding of something really beautiful. And I felt it, and I know some of you did too. It amplifies the meditation to do it together. This is gasoline for me. It's going to get me back in my meditation seat when I'm at home the rest of this month until we gather together again on the first Monday of October. So let me take us out with another gong here. Thank you again so much. Happy Rosh Hashanah to all who are celebrating. And thank you so much for coming to the Full Moon Sangha. Good night, everybody.